That's our cue. That's
good audio.
our video or audio cue.
Yeah.
For our intro when editing.
Absolutely. Here we go. So, welcome, pudding people, to another episode of Everybody Loves Pudding. Okay, we're going to start that over. Did not mean to shock you.
It was no shocking. It was
just louder than you expected, I'm sure.
No, it was good. It was fine.
Okay.
This is tempered. It was fine.
Well, we'll do it one more time just because you did that and it made me laugh. So since we've got an audio-only version, we'll do it again. But welcome, pudding people, to another episode of Everybody Loves Pudding. I am your host, Vanilla Ken Seymour, with your co-host, also Vanilla Richard Geiger.
Yes, vanilla.
We are very vanilla. Vanilla with a little bit of hair on the front.
Salt and pepper.
Yeah, something like that.
Could you have salt and pepper vanilla?
I don't know how well that would sell. Yeah. Well, we're back again with another movie review, this time with the both of us, because it's an important movie. You should all be aware by now through the number of advertisements and news stories and all of the other stuff that goes along with it, that the final episode of the X-Men kind of trilogy, it's not really a trilogy anymore, it's a
X-Men cinematic universe?
Yeah, if you can really call it that. So, the last episode, Dark Phoenix, before it is consumed, maybe in some people's opinion done in a slightly better way by the Disney conglomerate that owns Marvel. But it's the last entry in this extended kind of grouping of hit or miss movies. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, in the whole Fox X-Men extended family.
Exactly.
Do you count Deadpool in that family too?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it's the Fox.
The Fox umbrella.
Yeah, so I mean, some of the stuff they've done has been pretty fantastic. Some of the stuff that they've done has been kind of As always, I'm very careful in how I state things because, just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not good. So I try not to make such straight up considerations. This movie's awful. There are some instances where I'll still say this movie is just awful.
They have two of the lowest rated of the comic book movies. So
they do.
It's
if that means anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
But as I said, Dark Phoenix. We went to see it. We wanted to tell if this was something that was going to be a swan song that was to be remembered or something that was just kind of a sputter and forget. Now, as always, we're going to begin with just a general description of how we felt about the movies. Is it something that you should absolutely go out and see in the theaters? Is it something you should wait for on Blu-ray or streaming? Maybe purchase it for your personal collection? Is it something that you should just completely ignore and pretend never existed? And then we will kind of go into greater detail into the spoiler-heavy section where we will dissect the movie scientifically, but not with our patented method that is probably just like a lot of other people's methods, but it's our method, our version. So we're going to go...
So it's the best one, is what you're saying.
Yeah. It's good. We're going to divide it into discussions about the cast, about the director, about costuming and props, location, cinematography, plot and writing, and a little bonus area. All of those points together will add up to a total possibly up to 100 points, possibly as low as 1 point. Neither of those have ever happened. I doubt they ever will. But, you can score along at home and see how close your opinion is to what we've got.
Just throw some bonus points at the end just so I can make it the score that I really want to make it.
Yeah, that's what I started doing, really. I've looked at all the stuff that I've scored so far and how do I really feel about this film. I think it should rank right about there. How do I get it to that total?
That's fair.
And then I go through and I put the points where I think that they're supposed to be and I look at it again. And then sometimes I go, I made a mistake. I think this movie is much better than I thought it was.
A little negative 20 in the bonus point section, maybe?
No, that's completely different. That movie deserved negative 20 points. Any musical will get negative 20 points.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat.
So the best score that a musical can get is a B-.
Yes. Okay. And I believe that is fair. I have yet to see a musical movie, live action, and that's very specific, musical movie, live action, that I would put past an 80. Even the ones that I like. I don't like that much. So it's just that's just what it is. Now, musical theater, that's completely different. Musical cartoons, that's completely different. But yeah, we're getting off topic. Anyway.
Yeah, Dark Phoenix was not a
musical. So, all right. What did you think? You went to see it a little before I did. Generally speaking, how did you feel about the movie, Richard?
Generally speaking, I would say that if you have watched all the other movies and you enjoyed those movies and you, generally speaking, go and watch them in the movie theater, don't be scared by the bad reviews. Go and watch this one. That's what I would say. Now, if you're just a casual moviegoer and you like comic book movies and you're like, well, maybe I'll go and see this one, it might not be up your alley. But I think for all the people that have watched them before or have any interest in this, I would say go and watch it in the movie theater. But definitely check it out at the very least when it comes to DVD and add it to your collection is what I would say when the time comes.
I think we're pretty close to the same on the same page here. I agree. This isn't nearly as bad as the Rotten Tomatoes score and some of the other things that I've seen. And that makes it sound like I think it's bad, which I don't. I thought it was a pretty decent movie, truthfully, all in all. I enjoyed watching it, which really surprised me. I don't know. If I didn't do this normally, I probably would have given this a pass in the movie theater, but I would most certainly have watched it on streaming and almost certainly bought it on Blu-ray as well. So I'd say that's where it kind of fits into me. I agree. If you're a comic book movie kind of person, that is definitely the way that I would have gone with it. And I just also learned something very important. I will red line the audio if I close the cap to my pen. See, let's do that again. Oh, there it went.
Powerful.
All right, so that's the spoiler-free section, the very simple book-ended version. And now we'll break into the spoiler heavy. But before we get into the spoiler heavy, just a little reminder. If you want to know what's going on with the Pudding Guys at any given time, it's very easy to find out. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter at Real Pudding Guys, on Facebook at Pudding Guys, on Instagram at Pudding Guys. You'll see a trend here. It's kind of the same thing all around everywhere. We even have a Patreon account. Just look for Pudding Guys. We would love your support in helping to make new content, new movie reviews, new top 10 videos, new interviews. We do our best to go out to all of the places that we can find really neat people to talk to and bring those interviews back to you. It costs money, quite a bit.
Free.
We want to provide it free to everyone to listen to, but any support is appreciated. Right now, we only have one bucket, the $1 per month.
$1, you say?
Just $1. That's all it takes to help us make the show and bring it to you and hopefully make it better. Now, we will be putting some new buckets in soon because we have some new stuff coming along, and we'll hopefully have some really interesting options for you, but we will keep you apprised when the time comes.
All we need is $1 to make us holler.
We may edit that part out. I don't know yet. Remember, PG. Well, people will get the reference. People that don't, maybe it's okay.
It's a song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, so on to the good stuff. Let's break this down a little bit. Let's start with director again. We've been starting with cast a lot. We're change it up just a little bit.
Throwing curveballs at us here.
Just a little bit. I think starting with the director is right in this instance because there's actually quite a bit to unpack with this particular choice of director. We've got Simon Kinberg, right?
Yes. So I think people would recognize the name, but not as a director.
No. This is like his only directing
credit. Yes. Yep. He'd done writing, executive producing, that type of stuff for a lot of the other movies, and this was the one that he took the reins on. Well, like you said, there's more to dig into it as to why he took the directing reins over. But you know what? If this is the first movie that you're gonna do,
that's kind of impressive.
He did a pretty good job. Now, Now, there's lots of things going on behind the scenes here.
Yeah.
And you hear different stories. I mean, this movie was recorded 2 years ago. So when you see all these actors, they're 2 years older now than what they were when they were filming this. And they had reshoots and delays, and then they had to change the ending. I don't know how much of that's on the director as it is the people, behind the director, pushing the buttons, making, spending the money, that type of stuff. I think it's a little bit of everything that kind of made the changes over the course of the last couple of years.
Well, for me, again, it's always, does the director, first of all, build excitement in going in to see the film? What has this person worked on previously? Does it lead me to believe that I think I'm going to like this particular movie? And then on top of that, okay, how did they actually execute? Does it seem like he had a grasp of the source material in instances where there's a comic book movie, something to those lines? So he's really kind of hit or miss for me going into this. So you look at his writing credits. Yeah, he's got credits on the other X-Men films, but he also has credits on things like Sherlock Holmes. Mm-hmm. He did the screenplays for Jumper and the Fantastic Four that came out in 2015. That's kind of cringeworthy, just a little bit.
Jumper.
To be fair, I kind of liked Jumper, sort of okay.
It had a different lead actor.
Yeah, maybe Hayden Christensen's not exactly the person that everyone rushes to see. I think he's better than most people would think. I mean, it's one of those things where you play to your strengths in your wheelhouse, and his strength is kind of similar in some respects to like a Tom Cruise. So, and I'll say what I mean. When you look at Tom Cruise in any given movie, how many emotions do you actually see run through his face at any given time? You might see a smile on occasion, but it's usually kind of a serious grimace or a serious not grimace. That's pretty much his range. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's kind of what he does. And I think Hayden Christensen kind of falls into that range too, for the most part. Now, to be fair, I haven't seen anything really that he's done after Jumper, if he has done anything after Jumper. So it's quite possible that he's going to prove me wrong or I missed something. But at least from what I've seen, that's kind of what it is. Not such a bad thing. But now, did you know that this director also had a hand in X-Men Last Stand writing?
It's a good movie. What about his? So he's got some. For all those, I mean, he's got some hands in Logan. For example.
Well, that's production.
Production, yes, not writing.
Writing, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Triple X State of the Union.
I'm sensing a trend here.
There's a bit of a trend. Now, when it comes to production, he's kind of involved in a bunch of the X-Men stuff. So, I mean, he was involved with Deadpool and Deadpool 2 on the production side. And he's involved in one of my favorite TV shows in terms of production, that's Legion. But it's hard to get an understanding, a picture of exactly who he is and what he brings just from that. So I can't say I was super excited with him going into this film. Now, once I watched the film, again, with kind of low bar expectations because of hearing everything that I had heard and knowing how bad the X-Men films in the way I view them have been in the past, I think he did all right. I feel like there was a little bit of a disconnect. It didn't really see a flow.
I buy into that.
But really, that's about it. I mean, for what it is and the difficulties that were there, I thought he did all right.
Yeah, I mean, when you've got a little bit of everything to do in the movie, not only did you have your hand in some of the writing and some of the production and the direct, like you pretty much did everything in the movie. So that's a nice part from a directing standpoint because you can control and you can change some of the things that have already been written. You can control where the money is spent, how the money is spent. So that definitely helps. it's a little, I would imagine, stressful to do all that stuff.
I can't imagine being in his shoes in this particular movie. This one specifically, there's almost no way that there's going to be an upside. Even if the movie was good, there's no upside. Okay, let me rephrase that. Even if the movie was received well by everybody, whether it's good or not, again, is a matter of perspective. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. I just don't think that he did anything to a mass detriment of this movie.
No.
No, I don't think this movie was an A-list blockbuster either.
No, not even close.
I mean, everybody thinks it's like the worst movie ever in any of the comic book movies ever made. Really, I mean, that's Rotten Tomato wise, is like 22% or
yeah, I don't get that
something
one, because
like that.
this was way better than Last Stand was.
Yeah,
I mean, by orders of magnitude.
X-Men Origins.
Oh, it's
Wolverine.
definitely better than X-Men Origins.
It's better than other movies too, but I don't think he did anything monumentally good or bad.
No. If there's anything that I would attribute, if he had any hand in the writing as well, and considering he was involved in X-Men Last Stand, I think there may be a fundamental, I don't want to say lack of understanding of the source material, because I'm not sure that that's really what it is. I think it's an inability to convey the source material in a live action that in a way that connects right, where you get the feeling that, okay, you get it. This is the way that it was supposed to be. And partly I think you just can't do it. Dark Phoenix cannot be done in one movie. It's not possible. There is just too much to that story. So it's always rushed. It's always missing stuff. It's always changed in substantial ways that just make it so that it doesn't work. And I think that's one of the reasons that Marvel will do it right when they get it, because they do not mind taking the long game when it comes to certain storylines.
I think this storyline is better played out on paper
Probably so.
than what it is on film. Even on the cartoon show from the 90s, when this segment of the cartoon came up, it was just kind of annoying to me. So I've never been enamored with the Dark Phoenix storyline, but I don't know why they felt the need to do it again. But whatever, we're talking about directing. So
They've killed Uncle Ben a couple of times in the movies now, so maybe it's a generational thing. Who knows?
they just don't like rice. I don't know.
So what do you think, director-wise? Out of a total of 20 points, how many points would you give it?
I mean, I want to say 14 or 15. 14.
14? I myself gave it 12. I mean, pretty solid. I mean, well, above the mid
passing.
range. Yeah, passing. So now we can go back into the cast. Now the cast should be one of the easier things, because these individuals, with the exception of the villain, the lead villain role, are all people that have been in the previous movies, and they're carryovers. So it's nothing particularly new. I mean, you got James McAvoy, who I absolutely adore in pretty much everything, except maybe Wanted. Couldn't get behind the bending of the bullets thing, but he was also in Split and the subsequent mashup of Unbreakable and Split and Glass not too long ago, and reviewed that. He was in Atomic Blonde. Mm-hmm. So I mean, he was in The Last King of Scotland. He was in one of my favorite movies, a quirky little movie called Penelope. That, if you've never seen it, I've got just a couple of deeper cut shout outs, and Penelope is one of them. It's Christina Ricci and James McAvoy, and it is delightful. It is so much fun. You would never think that a live action movie where there is a girl with a pick nose as the main character would be entertaining at all. Oh, it's so good. Anyway, neither here nor there. You got Michael Fassbender reprising his role as Magneto or Magneto. There's still, I'm sure, people fighting over how to pronounce that particular name, and I'm not going to get into it because I just don't care that much. But he was in like Prometheus and Steve Jobs. Who did he play in Steve Jobs?
Jim? Jim the technician?
That's right, something like that. He was in the Assassin's Creed movie.
He was in Jonah Hex.
Yes, he was. He actually has 2 other comic book crossovers. He's in Jonah Hex, but he's also in 300.
That's true. Overrated movie, by the way.
What?
We'll discuss that later.
Yeah, we'll have to come back to that one. 300 was really good. Jennifer Lawrence, the Hayden Christensen of female actress.
Hey.
Is that too harsh?
At least people appreciate her acting career and the things that she's done.
That
awards that she's won.
That was entirely too mean. But she kind of reminds me of him in some respect. Again, a lot of her, you don't see a lot of facial change in her roles. And truthfully, I bet I know what it is that really gets me. She was in the Hunger Games, which I despise. I just terribly, no. So I'm sure that is coloring my view of it.
And I've never seen the Hunger Games. Not a single one of those things.
I've tried on several occasions now, and I get a few minutes in. It's like, nope, can't do it. It does not hit me right. Now, she was in Silver Linings Playbook, which I did really like, and I thought she did fine.
Yep.
She had good range in that. So completely disregard what I said before. It was the first thing that came to mind, and I don't know why. It's just, for some reason, was there. She's all right. I kind of want to see Red Sparrow and Passengers. I still haven't had a chance to. I think she's probably pretty good. I'm not going to be able to get past that. I'm going to be giggling in the back of my head for the rest of the episode because of it. You got Nicholas Hoult reprising his role as Beast. Now he's had some interesting bits and pieces. He was in the Mad Max remake that they did.
Nux.
Yeah. He was in the Tolkien movie that just came out.
Yes, he was Tolkien.
Yeah, got the lead. Now, this is the second deep cut shout out. Considering this is what gets me, because the audience that Hunger Games was aimed at is the same audience that this other movie is aimed at. And I like this other movie, but didn't like Hunger Games. Just a taste thing. But Warm Bodies, that movie was so good. It was so good. A Romeo and Juliet love story with zombies.
With zombies in an airport.
It was really kind of fantastic. I love that movie.
Rob Corddry, a zombie in that movie,
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was. So that was good. You got Sophie Turner, of course, as Jean Grey. Most people still would recognize her more for her Game of Thrones stuff than anything. You've got...
I'm trying to think what else she's really been in that people would recognize her from.
Not much of anything else. Well, she's been in other stuff, but those are the things that really are the big name stuff. You've got Ty Sheridan as Cyclops. I'm sorry, I liked the previous Cyclops better, but I really like the other actor quite a lot.
James Marsden?
Yeah, Marsden is underrated. And we've gotten into this discussion. You have claimed that he is the best at sitting in a car opposite an animated character, but
got to do what you got to do.
He makes me laugh. He can do serious. I love James Marsden. I just don't know Ty Sheridan quite so well. I mean, he was in Ready Player One. I didn't see it.
I didn't see it either. Currently available on HBO.
I think it's just a matter of not being really familiar with his work yet. Alexandria Shipp as Storm. She's been in a few things that I haven't watched. She did the Aaliyah documentary, biometry. Well, she was Aaliyah in the Aaliyah movie. You've got was it Braun Peters?
Evan Peters.
So here's something that you'll get to know about me. There are two different things that I have that are massive problems. I mispronounce people's names, and I can't read my own handwriting. Evan Peters.
And you thought it was what brand? Braun?
Well, the problem was is the ink kind of see it.
Oh yeah, it does kind of look like Bran.
A little bit.
Brand Stark. So,
high quality digital and audio output. That's what I strive for.
A+ content.
And you know what the best thing about me doing that is now we're never going to get him on the show because people are going to point this out. He called you Braun Peters. Oh God. But
Bran Flakes.
he was in Kick-Ass and Never Back Down. He actually was kind of the best person in Never Back Down. Now that I think about it, he had the most personality that I could see of any of the actors that were in that, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, he does a good. Well, in the comics, Quicksilver's kind of like a jerkbag, right?
Yeah, a douche, as some people might say.
And in this movie, he's probably one of the more entertaining people, character-wise.
Yeah.
So
Flip
to script.
He did have one of the more laugh out loud moments where he's taking credit for the shuttle mission. That was a lot of fun. That was mostly me. Cody Schmidt-McPhee as Nightcrawler. Right?
Mm-hmm. Smith.
Smits?
S.
No Schmidt?
No, I don't think there's a CH or a H.
Schmidt has got to be Schmidt. Schmidt! He was in Road and
Reminds me of a
Paranorman
commercial from MTV starring Adam Sandler.
And of course we got Jessica Chastain as Vuk. As in, I don't know what the Vuk they were thinking.
Yeah, who the fuck is that?
Yeah, that just maybe not the best name choice you could have put in there. It just lends itself to jokes way too easy. But Zero Dark 30 was one of her big things, and Interstellar and The Martian. Yeah. Now that's kind of funny because the director also worked on The Martian.
Martian producer.
So yeah. So really solid cast. Everybody did great. And I have to always give kudos to the actors and actresses like Jennifer Lawrence that had to act through all the ridiculous amount of makeup that they were wearing. That's always really rough. And I think that for the most part they did really well. There's nothing that I can think of specifically that the actors really would have had a hand in making that was a misstep. I think is mostly writing missteps. What do you think?
Sophie Turner had her American accent.
Yeah.
You could see it sneak, her English one sneak out a bit from time to time. Alexandria Shipp had, I mean, she's got to kind of make up an accent, which in the cartoons she's had an accent, right? 'Cause she's from Africa.
Yeah.
But when Halle Berry did her character, there was no accent.
I don't think it's wrong to go either way, accent or no accent. I think Alexandria did fine. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's more authentic to do an accent. Is it?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say that's probably true.
So I appreciated that aspect of it at least. Jessica Chastain, I'm kind of neutral on her. I'm not. Maybe this isn't the best movie to showcase her talents, which probably isn't. But meh. Kind of neutral, like I said, on her. I don't dislike her, but she's not one of my favorites. So
So this is where I'm going to say, this is where I'm going to say line, and we're going to have this little gap that you're going to edit together, right? So I'm going to say ship, and then line. That way, when in the earlier part where I said Alexandria shill, you can paste that over and make it right.
That's what you think.
Come on, you got to do this for me. I don't want to alienate anybody. I like all these people. It's not their fault that I can't read my own writing. Those are P's. I wrote it down right. They looked like L's.
I mean, I just thought you were pronouncing it wrong. I don't know.
No.
I thought I heard it right. I thought I heard it right as in I heard you mispronounce it. I was just like, well,
No.
there's usually one of those per. So
This is one of those instances because I was just at 2 back-to-back conventions that I did not have the prep time that I needed. So I was in a bit of a hurry putting all of this together. And when you hurry my writing, which is already not very good, it comes out god-awful. And it's lucky that I can read any of it.
you might say it looks like ship.
Yeah. See, this is terrible notes. If you ever want to see it. Oh, good Lord.
Wait, I'm
so
supposed to be
sorry.
editing this? It's not gonna happen.
You should. Hey, that's why I said I gave you the perfect spot. There's nothing in between. You can make us look a little bit better. All right. So
That'd be funny.
Actors, pretty easy. 15 out of 20 for me.
15. So you gave him a C for the actors.
None of them had a performance that really amazed me, but none of them really did terrible either.
No, I mean that's fair. But I'll go a little bit more than that just to give them a benefit of the doubt. I'll do 16.
16 for the actors. All right, now to a couple of easy subcategories. We've got costuming and props. Those X suits, God, they were ugly. I'm sorry. They just did not look great.
I mean, they were kind of touched on to an extent about how they were becoming as part of the storyline, not the look of them, but the fact that they were
wearing them.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but the look, it just like bad 80s almost to a certain extent. Just the X costumes. And that's the whole reason it stood out to me, because in the rest of the film, everything else was really good. Well, or at least passable. But just those X suits look so bad.
With the yeller on top, the blue and the yeller.
They didn't look natural or comfortable or like they would reduce damage or were designed by somebody that wanted them to be recognized. I mean, it's like, oh, I got this in the secondhand store and there are 12 of them, so everybody's going to wear the same thing.
I mean, is that any part of an original comic look or a modern?
It's kind of like a modernized version of the X Factor suits. Because if you look at the first issue of X Factor, Cyclops had a spandex, because I assume it's spandex anyway, outfit that had one big white X that went, and then it was that kind of darker blue through the rest, and everybody else had kind of a similar version of the same thing. That's the closest I can think of off the top of my head. Now, I'm sure there's probably something that's closer, because as much as I've read, there's a lot that I haven't. And I think it's just as likely that this is a direct take on something that I just am not thinking of at the moment. But regardless of whether it's a direct take on that or not, maybe an Age of Apocalypse kind of style, possibly, regardless of what it was based on, it just did not look good. It looked plasticky and stiff and just not great. And like I said, the only reason that really stands out to me is everything else was really pretty good.
Yeah. Trying to think here. So the look that you didn't get a look. So in previous movies, when they were at the school, you got hints of other characters that were kids, and they might have had their own design or their hair or their earrings or their clothes or something. You didn't get any of that.
No.
You didn't get a single bit of that. There was a character that you did see. Do you remember who it was? Like, not a main character that was in the movie, but you actually got to see another X-Man, hint, X-woman character who had a run of her own.
I must have missed it. Which one?
So when they're having...
Oh, wait. Dazzler.
Dazzler, yes.
God, I can't. I'm spacing it. It's too late. It was when we're recording is what it is. That was a geek out moment for me. And as disliking I was of the Yellow X costumings, that was fantastic.
Yeah, so that was a nice... Like I said, in all the previous ones, I feel like when they're at the school, the kids represent some young version or teen version of a character. But you just didn't get any of that in this one. That was the one little hint of an extra character. But, you know, how that one was thrown out there, I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, they did a good job. It was there for as long as it needed to be. It made me geek out just a little bit from seeing it, and that served its purpose, I'm sure. And just all in all, that was fun. And like I said, the rest of the outfits were good. I mean, there's a lot of standard stuff. Nothing that was really amazing.
Props? What type of props? I
Didn't have a lot. I mean, you had the wheelchair, I guess.
Yes.
Wheelchair was all right.
Three wheels.
Yeah.
A tricycle chair.
I mean, it's a variant of stuff that we've seen in the comics. He's had so many chairs, it's not funny.
And it was the 90s, so no hovering chair yet.
Which makes me sad. I was hoping for a hovering chair.
Well, but in the future.
That's one thing I did appreciate. Didn't see cell phones.
Yeah.
No Starbucks coffee cups anywhere to be seen.
No. There was a lot of actual landline phones. That was what I was kind of paying attention to, is that if you saw the X phone, which was just like a standard handset phone, but next to it there was like a phone, like a digital style phone that you might even see now to an extent. So
that was kind of cool.
Well, I don't know why I paid attention to the phones.
Well, you know, because they were front and center. They just shoved him in the face from like the camera angle when he couldn't get through to the president. It was like you were sitting on the floor in front of the desk and the phone was right there in front of your nose. Yeah, you couldn't have not looked at the phone.
It had a big X on it.
Yeah, but and that was fine. I thought, you know, talking about camera angles, which we'll get into here in a minute, that was right for that scene. I think it made sense. But costuming and props, because of that, I mean, the only detractor was that the suits I didn't like. So kind of 8 out of 10 for me.
I think 8 is fair.
Yeah. Going into locations, I started thinking about it after the fact. There really weren't a lot of locations in this film. I mean, there were a handful. You had the
space shuttle.
Yeah, the shuttle. You had the car at the beginning on the road, right? You had the WADs. I'm going to say that's Woods. You thought
it was WAAD?
Well, yeah, something like that. The mansion, the house, and the train. That's pretty much it.
When they were in New York.
A different mansion.
It was like an apartment. They were in the park too.
What kind of apartment in New York has a staircase along the side with an overlook and marble? That was the mansion.
The one where the Richards live.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, that's my mindset. So not a ton of locations, but I think that was a good thing. I mean, keep it simple, keep it safe. So did you think anything weird about the locations, or anything that was really good or really bad?
There was one other location that I kind of considered, we didn't think about either, was Magneto's mutant
base. That's right.
So
that was neat.
That was cool. So like, if they could have, this is where the comic book movie should have gone is getting that thing into an asteroid and getting it.
Awesome.
Now you're getting somewhere. Like the real strife between
the asteroid M, that would have been so good. It's like, you can't have this land. Well, I'll just take it then.
Yeah.
Up it goes.
So that little thing, that was cool. You know, they were farming and stuff, and there was grass and trees.
Yeah, it was solid.
Some shanties.
Not much to talk about, really. Nothing that, like I said, stood out one way or the other. So, again, kind of an 8 out of 10. They did what they needed to do. It was there. It didn't get in the way. Served its purpose, and that was it.
Sure. I'll go with an 8 spot.
Now is where things get interesting, at least in my mindset. Cinematography, which is kind of where all the CGI falls and the camera angles and the blocking and all that sort of stuff. I was fully expecting that the CGI in this would be god awful, at least in spots. I've been kind of disappointed in some of the movies I've been watching recently. It's just had some really big misses in terms of CGI. There weren't any.
No, I think so. So part of this could be when you have characters like Beast and in this movie Raven, not Mystique, Raven.
Same difference.
Practical effects, not camera effects, for the most part. So they didn't have to necessarily produce entire characters via CGI. That helps a lot, in my opinion. So I touched on this a little bit when we reviewed Infinity War, is that as great as that movie was, and the thing was just a $300 million thing of computer animation and stuff, that Thanos was like a B, right? Like Thanos was really good and good in a lot of scenes, but it was kind of overall a B range done character. But you didn't really have to do that in this movie. The alien creatures were, when you saw them as their original form, were weird. But that was it.
Well, the only thing that I thought that really could have had problems is that far shot when the train's speeding by and they're all on top of the train. I thought that had the potential to have some pretty bad animation because you're looking at it from a distance, and sometimes those individuals can come out as cartoony. And I really didn't see it. They looked pretty good. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but I mean, really, it didn't detract. Nothing did. The gunshots to the aliens looked good. The fire effect for the Phoenix looked good. It was just really pretty solid in terms of CGI, anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there was much to talk down on.
No, not really.
Let me see here. Every time you did a Nightcrawler,
Bamf,
there was always the little blue fuzzies and curly smoke fuzzies thing. Those look cool, and
you got to have the fun super speed minute with Quicksilver at the beginning.
It's very quick minute. Well, 10 seconds.
However long, yeah.
And then he was basically done for the rest of the movie.
Which was kind of sad.
Unfortunate. Some lightning bolts, some hair. Ooh, some hair. The one character, I don't know the bad guy with the hair.
With the blades on the ends of his hair. He was fighting alongside Magneto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with who that is either. It's not somebody I recognize. I mean, it reminds me of somebody like Omega Red, but it's not Omega Red. I'm really not sure who that is.
No.
Yeah, chink in my armor.
There was also...
Was it Callisto? Was that
the other mutant?
I think so.
Can detect mutants? Is that what Callisto does?
Something like that. It had her with mental powers. I don't remember her having any sort of telepathic capabilities.
And the credits don't give that character a specific name. Oh, gosh. NASA Tech. No, that's not her.
Well, while you're looking up that, I'll address what I think was more of an issue in terms of cinematography. I didn't like some of the shots were a little strange in how they framed people together. It kind of threw me off a little bit. And it's most likely just fine. It's most likely just me. But some of the off-center instances just kind of threw me off. There were some, like that train scene, even though the CGI on the people looked okay, you were so far away, you couldn't really see what was happening in any real way. I know you're supposed to feel like you're kind of in the cockpit of the helicopter, but that didn't work so well for me when you're going with a high CGI scene like that. The pacing of the confrontation of Magneto and Jean Grey at the really nice apartment / mansion went from frenetic to really odd practical effects. It seemed to kind of not meld as he brought the subway car into the front. That didn't quite work for me. It seemed clunky.
Why did he bring it in?
The only thing I could think of was to block the entrance. Maybe. Or look at me. I can heavy things. I'm really not sure what the purpose of that was, other than to show that he could lift it out of the subway. And
the character's name was Selene. Was that right?
Oh, Selene. Really? With Magneto. That's an odd choice.
Selene Gallio.
Maybe it's a different Selene that I'm thinking of. Because the Selene that I'm thinking of from the comics was a mutant vampire. And she definitely had mental powers. She needed to consume the life force people to maintain her essentially immortal existence.
Was that the character?
Yeah, that's definitely her.
So maybe she wasn't somebody referenced from the comics. She was just
maybe not.
Whoever.
But so there were a couple of odd choices in terms of some framing and some choices of where to put things. But for the most part, again, it was nothing terribly major.
And the crash scene at the beginning when that
was solid.
That was good. Mm-hmm. Like they showed it multiple times, like at the beginning, and then there was a flashback to it in the middle also. Mm-hmm. And that was fine. Her face getting the little cracks across it from time to time.
That was all right. Little unimpressive, but I see where they were going with it. Kind of under the surface sort of a thing.
Yeah.
The shuttle was good. Not what I thought was just terribly impressive, but good. That's like a lot of the film in terms of how it was good. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if that's what it is, I'll take that. I mean, this is not to be spoilery in our own review, but it's a movie I ended up watching again. So for me, that's kind of a 15 out of 20.
Yeah, it was so like normally that detracts.
Yeah,
and in this one,
didn't really.
It really didn't. So I'll give it a 16.
Nice. All right, now for the writing, where things usually fall apart.
Yeah, this is where things usually take a dive.
Okay, so the writing on this, like I said, I don't believe a Dark Phoenix storyline can be done in a single movie. It'd be like trying to do the whole Infinity War / Gauntlet, whatever you want to call it, in a single movie. It doesn't work. So kind of, in my mind, doomed to failure to begin with. You just can't do what you're going to try and do. You're going to just try and cram too much stuff in there. They didn't do that. Instead of trying to cram too much stuff in there, they just made up whatever they wanted to make up and called it Dark Phoenix.
They had the core elements. So at the end of the Apocalypse movie, they saw her get splody.
Yeah.
But it didn't really carryover per se to this movie. It was more of the absolute core elements, which was when she was little.
Yeah.
Xavier got her.
Created the
barriers because she was actually much more powerful, powerful than what you actually see most of the time.
Yeah.
And then a cosmic event triggered those powers to be released.
Yeah, and is what the Phoenix Force was drawn to in the first place. Now, in the comics, they go into a little more detail about what it is that is what draws the Phoenix Force and how it's kind of something that doesn't just happen to Jean Grey, but, there is a Phoenix character that appears in the Excalibur group. That's the Rachel Summers, so the daughter. But again, it's pretty much anybody around the Grey side of things kind of gets that affinity, basically. Hope Summers had the same thing happen when the Avengers versus X-Men storyline. The Phoenix Force side head straight to Earth, wants Hope, that sort of thing. But
the aliens that we still don't know who the aliens are.
Yeah, no clue.
Was just like a plot tool.
Yeah, and that really frustrated me. That was one of the biggest detractions for me. I hate two-dimensional villains, whether it's a single big bad guy that his whole thing is, or her whole thing is, I want to rule the world, or I want to destroy the world. Why? Yeah, because I'm evil. Okay.
Well, they wanted to create a new world for themselves.
Well, they had that part. But again, it's kind of nameless masses of aliens that we're not going to flesh out. Here's a very brief description of why. That's it.
You're done.
You're done. That, God, makes me want to pull my hair out every single time. And I understand. Time in this kind of a movie is precious. And you're looking at the plot development and the character development of everybody else. But come on. You can do more than that. I will forever say that heroes are good, but they're only as good as the villains that they're up against. The villain is always more compelling to me. And if you can't make a compelling villain, you have pretty much already failed.
And if you look at how this movie was presented, I feel like it was presented as though Jean Grey was the villain, right?
Yeah, kind of.
In a roundabout form or fashion. I mean...
Or at least the antagonist.
Yes.
Not villain, yeah.
And the villains, yeah, they're the Phoenix, as they only called her because of how she exploded in space but was still alive. Now, sidetrack on this. I like how for Nightcrawler they just patched up his head, and so he had a helmet on. It didn't matter, just go out there in the vacuum of space.
Yeah, that was kind of awesome.
And how did the X-Jet accelerate instantly in space?
Well, they've got mutant science.
Oh, mutant science. That's my favorite science.
Yeah, it's that their special brand of magic science.
Now I'm nitpicking, of course.
Yeah,
because a lot of those things ignore science things like there's no sound in space, and yet the jets always have whooshing sounds when they fly around in space.
There's no fire really in space.
No, only if there's some type of oxygen tank.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, they're kind of small things. I did have another nitpicky thing, and this irks me every single time. The line that Raven has towards the beginning of the movie, you should call it X-Women because we keep saving everybody. Which I get kind of in the sense they want to kind of have that. Again, it's another instance where you want to have that kind of empowerment thing, and I'm all for that. This is badly written. It was out of nowhere. It was not really connected to anything. It was just lame.
Forced.
It needed some lead up. It needed something to build to it so that when it was said, it carried weight. And the way it was said, it's just sitting there lame. And just...
And I definitely appreciate the fact that one, she didn't want to be in any more X-Men movies anyway. She said that she was in this movie because Jennifer Lawrence anyway.
Contract obligations?
No, if she was saying this and was being honest about it, well, bravo to her. She said it wouldn't be fair to all the fans if there was a different actress in this position for this movie, right?
Well, if that's really what she said, and really what she meant,
If that's what she really meant, then
that's a stand-up applause to me for Jennifer Lawrence. That's really, really good.
But you could tell, and to an extent, that she really didn't want to do this again, and I get it. I mean, getting wrapped up in that makeup. At least she didn't have to do it as much because she had her fancy X uniform on, right?
That is true, and she wasn't in a ton of the film.
No, they killed her off pretty early. So she got her little stint in the movie, and then they just used her as a point to get her off the payroll, right, and kill her off. So, like, I don't even know if her death had a lot of impact. Like, it had a plot-moving.
So I'm going to have to ask about this. I did not see Days of Future Past, and I only saw bits and pieces of Apocalypse. Was there a really strong relationship between Jean Grey and Raven in the movies?
In the movies. So, Days of Future Past. No. Like, in that movie, she was trying to, in Days of Future Past, she was trying to kill Nixon or Trask or all those people. So, Jean Grey wasn't even in that movie. Right? Mm-hmm. And then in the Apocalypse one, I'm trying to think. Yeah, they were in there. I can't remember the relationship that they had necessarily in that one.
I just don't remember anything on screen before that, because I saw the previous ones, that would have lent to this deep emotional connection that the two of them had. We bring each other back, and I'm here to help you. Okay. It seemed, again, forced. It wasn't.
Yeah, like I said, I just can't remember. I've seen Age of Apocalypse a couple of times, but it's been a while since I've seen those. And they're not, like, Age of Apocalypse isn't that memorable of a movie because I want the Apocalypse character to be just ridiculous. Yeah. And the Apocalypse character was in a sense, but wasn't in a sense. And I want to see the Four Horsemen be just scary, just characters that are imposing, and they really weren't. I don't know. So like that movie was really underwhelming for me, for the character that I knew and the characters that surrounded him that I knew.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that we really missed out in the X-Men line of movies that apparently was in the works, like it was like written, was that before this one there was going to be a spin-off with Beast, and what was it, the Fantastic Four, who got into like a fight over something, and it turns out the whole reason they got into the fight was something to do with the Essex Corporation, and it would have introduced Sinister, and he would have been a bad guy that started there and carried on through more movies.
That I would have liked to have seen a good Mr. Sinister come in. That's such a fun character.
So I'm hoping that 4 years or whatever down the road,
when Marvel gets to it,
when they get to it, that Sinister is going to be a character that they've only touched on it. They've only just, so we saw it in Deadpool.
Yeah.
But we did see it in an X-Men movie. We saw it because at the end sequence, the end credits scene, someone from the Essex Corporation came in and gobbled up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So we saw it, but we never saw it fleshed out.
Well, and that's the thing. In the comics, the Sinister character is keenly interested in the Summers and
the whole family line.
The whole family line. And that's a great way to tease out the storyline if you did want to do Dark Phoenix the right way. That is the way to do it. But, yeah. Anyway, back to...
Well, that has impact because that could have led into other movies, which would have led into a better version of this movie.
Yeah. And again, it's not like this movie was awful. It just, because of its quick setup and its lack of real connection to the characters and the audience, or the characters and each other, it couldn't give you that emotional impact that you needed it to have.
Another question, completely off subject. Why do, when there are armies, or not armies, but military people, and they have helicopters, why are they always Hueys?
That's a good question. Maybe it's because you've got that open side on it so that you can have the good camera angle and make it feel like you're in there. Or that's maybe what everybody expects a helicopter to be because they've seen way too many Vietnam movies at this point.
Or maybe, and seriously, maybe they're just like, you can get 3 of these for a certain amount.
One good one.
For one other one, yes. I was just thinking of that as I was watching the movie. I was like, this is the 90s. The Hueys were like a 60s thing, and even at that point in time, they were
getting older.
So, like, what? You see that in every, like, if you watched a movie in the 80s, they were all Huey helicopters. So
which kind of made sense. It's like, okay, we've got to get helicopters. We've got this budget.
Yeah.
We can get Hueys.
Okay. Back to the real talk. Keep going.
Yeah. So I mean, it just kind of, a lot of it just kind of messed with me. And this is probably the only thing that I will say the original X-Men series did better than this one. The Famke Janssen and Marsden chemistry was really good. And I didn't get the same kind of chemistry from these two.
Gene, thought I lost you.
I mean, when Marsden gets killed in the Last Stand, off screen, but before that, he conveys a lot of emotion in that, which is surprised the heck out of me. It's one of the things that got me go, okay, this guy can really act.
It was just
didn't
like
get that with this. Sorry.
No, they're on the ship, not the ship, the X-Jet, and he put his hand on her shoulder.
Yeah.
There you go. Done.
No, not done. Not even close to done.
Side note, we talked a little bit earlier today about Cyclops and him not being fully fleshed out as a character or a character with power because of his I-beams that can really destroy pretty much anything, and what he could use those for. And we saw a little bit more of that in this movie, which
that is one thing I did enjoy. It's like, all right, Scott, get down to the bottom. Just attach the thing to it. Okay, I'm going to aim this way.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's kind of cool. I mean, it's a dumb idea that works really well. It's like, why didn't anybody think of this? That should have been just a gimme.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
It's an eye turret.
But, yeah, I mean, the fight scenes were okay. They weren't bad by any stretch of the imagination. They were solid. But, I mean, there were a couple of big missteps, and there were a couple of really cool things. But those kind of merged together to me to, again, kind of go, 15. Solid.
Yeah. There were definitely some things missing, and the movie could have been longer.
That probably would have helped.
I sat through a half hour of nonsense like you always do, and I was like, well, no. I know there's trailers, and it's usually 20 minutes. It was a half hour. I looked at my watch. I was like, I've sat here for a half hour on this nonsense before this movie started.
Yep.
Like, I'm okay with 20. I used to work with movie theaters. I get it. That's where you make money. That's the one way to make money. 30 minutes. Like, get out of here, man. And anyway, so the movie was done. I looked at my watch again. I was like, oh, so this actual runtime was like an hour and 45 minutes. And then it could have been longer. It should have been longer. And there should have been more of a reason for these weird alien creatures to come and do things. Yeah. Like there was something that was missed out on these. And you're right, the bad guys were just there just in a weird way. And
I mean, maybe part of it is you couldn't really fold in the original aliens that were involved in the storyline. The Shar Empire would just have been too much for them to do.
We need Gladiator in our lives.
I want Gladiator so bad.
Never see him.
No, we never will. That just it.
And
frustrates me greatly.
And a real X-Men Juggernaut. We finally got a good Juggernaut.
Yes.
And a real X-Men Juggernaut.
That would be really nice to see. Well, now they've seen how to do them. The fact that Deadpool is how they showed that the Juggernaut can be done correctly. Maybe we'll see him. It's possible.
It's possible.
It's possible. But okay. How much out of 20 do you think for the plot and writing?
I'll give it a 12er.
12? All right. So this is the point where you can give any bonus points. Would you like me to add up your total so you can see where you are?
Yes, please.
So let's see. 24, 28, 32, 42, 52, 62, 72 is where you currently are.
Dang. So that's like a C-.
Yeah.
You know what? Try to think here.
Can you give a point for Dazzler?
No, because I'm not a Dazzler person. But I appreciated the fact that there was a Dazzler. So it's kind of a counterbalance. So one, because there was that extra character, which I love to see. But two, there could have been so many extra characters, and they just totally bypass on. So like it's a 1 and a -1. So I'm gonna go with no. I'm just gonna go with
72.
72.
Yeah, the no after credits, no mid credits, no nothing. Just kind of, this is what you get.
There was no reason to.
Sayonara.
Right? Yeah. There's. Had they known that this would have kept going, yeah, there'd been some type of credits. But maybe what's the point?
How much fun would it have been? It's still a Fox property. Get 5 seconds. Get Ryan Reynolds to show up for some reason at the very end to say something. I mean, come on. That's the money right there. Get Ryan Reynolds, get Wolverine to show up, Hugh Jackman, get Hugh Jackman to show up as the closeout. You know, anything, something to acknowledge the like nothing. No.
Nope. We done.
Unfortunate. Well, then, that makes a 72 for you and a 73 for me, which C- and a C. I mean, I think that's pretty fair. Like I said, with all of the detractions that we had, we're all really pretty small for the most part.
Yeah.
This is definitely a film that I'll end up buying on Blu-ray. It was enjoyable to watch. A lot more enjoyable than I expected. There's no way this is a 22%.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate that for the most part, the reason that nobody is going to see this is they're relying on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, there's got to be some means for people to have an idea if a movie is good or bad. Yeah. That's just how it works. But I read articles about the score that this thing received, or I guess I should say I don't read a lot. I read headlines and then read the first paragraph, but like the gist of a couple of these was we don't get why the score is what the score is. We understand how it's scored because it's an aggregate.
Yeah.
But we don't get why it's that score.
Yeah, that was really strange. That, like I said, just surprised the heck out of me. This is not a 22% film.
There's so many other worse films that are out there.
Oh, yeah.
Venom, for example.
Aladdin. Anyway.
Now, if we're talking about the cartoon, no. We're getting a whole dude.
That's true. The cartoon was pretty fabulous.
Yeah, no, No,
No words right now.
I wouldn't go and watch that in the theater for sure.
So we will leave this to you. Did you think the 22% Rotten Tomatoes score was accurate? Did you think our scores were closer to accurate? What is your score? Have you seen it yet? Are you going to wait for it? Whenever the time comes, pop onto our forums. Tell us what you think. We will respond. I promise. At least I will respond. Yeah, I might get this guy to respond. Say something.
Hey, I would respond if someone would ever put something on a thing, whatever that thing is.
Anything.
I ain't getting anything. So
Nothing there. But we would love to hear what you think. Tweet us. Stop by our Facebook page. Tell your friends about us.
go to the Gram.
Absolutely. Oh, and most importantly, don't forget YouTube. We are on YouTube. Subscribe, like, tell friends. We must dominate. We must be the best. We must be at least, higher and better and adequate.
Get those 10 views per week, son.
But until next time, we'll be back. No, that's terrible. Let's try something else. Until next time, we'll see you at the movies. No, that's taken. Okay. What about until next time? Eat your meat so you can have your pudding. Will we get smacked for that one?
I would advise you, gentlemen out there, to not eat your meat.
Are you saying the phrasing on that is poor? It's from a Pink Floyd song. I just can't win. I think we're just leaving. That's it.
Yeah.
Done.
I think we're gonna be done.